How's that?
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you for the reminder, Chuck.
Cool. So let's see. Let me get my things in order. I got to delete that now. It was cut off. Okay. Cool. So our goal is to prove not P and Q. By the way, this is one direction of De Morgan's law, right? So cool. We've got one premise. This is hard. We've got only one premise. Sorry, that I shouldn't have made that an assumption. I should have made it a premise. Let me delete that. Make that a premise. Not P or not Q. So this by no means is a trivial proof, but I'm going to show that we can go to our, our cheat sheet, our tips, and kind of mechanically work this out. So what is it that we have here? What kind of statement is this?
Or
statement.
It's an or statement. So let's go check out our rule. Okay, if our goal is that, no, that's not an or statement. What about here? Yeah, it's an or statement. So if our goal is to prove an or statement, then you only need to prove one of the sentences. Choose the one easiest to prove and use or introduction to create the or statement. So we could try to do it like that, right? Sorry, our goal is not an or statement. My bad. That's our premise, not our goal. So let's keep going through these rules. If you find out here on rule 7, it says, if your goal is to prove X, any X, which that's our goal, some X, right? And the premise includes an or statement. Hey, our premise includes an or statement. This looks like it's directly going to apply to us. Then you should try to prove phi implies X and psi implies X, and then use or elimination, right? So let's put that into our terminology or our sort of goals and premises, right? So let's get that into some text here. So we have this or statement, right? And it says it would be nice to prove phi implies X. So what would that look like for us in our case? If we're just directly mapping rule 7 to our goal and our premise.
Not P implies not parentheses P and Q.
Exactly.
Parentheses.
P and Q. So that's one of our objectives, right? What's another one of our objectives?
The same thing, but with not Q instead of not P in front.
Exactly. Does this make sense to people? This is just or, this is a basic application of or elimination, right? But this cheat sheet is sort of helping us think through that. Okay, cool. So of course I want to prove my ultimate goal, but in order to prove my ultimate goal, I'm going to have to prove these two sort of sub goals, right? So how do I prove a sub goal that's an implication? How do I start any implication proof?
An assumption.
An assumption. So what should I assume?
Negative P.
Not P, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with that one, right? Not P. Okay, cool. Now, what is my ultimate objective in this subproof? What do I want to prove? What do I want to get out of this subproof?
Not P implies the quantity not P and Q.
Right. So I have to prove this not P and Q thing here, right? Okay. Now that's a little bit tricky, right? That's a little bit tricky. So let's look at what we have at our belt, under our belt. If the goal is to prove not, right, not of something, hey, look, rule number 4 looks like it's kind of telling us exactly that, right? If our goal is to prove not of something, and that's our goal, it's to prove not of P and Q, then you should assume phi is true, and then try to prove a contradiction, and then use negation introduction to prove not phi. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? But let's just take it step by step. If the goal is to prove not phi, in this case, what is our phi?
P and Q.
P and Q. Then you should assume phi. So let's do that. Let's assume phi. And what is our phi, we said?
P and Q.
P and Q. Awesome. Boom. Is true. And then try to prove a contradiction, right? So let's think about how we can prove a contradiction. Remember, a contradiction means that we prove something and then we prove the not of that something. So in the end, we're going to have another assumption that's P and Q, and we want to reach some sort of contradiction. Does anyone see a way that we can reach a contradiction with what we have here? Just here.
And elimination.
And elimination. Okay, let's start with that. We got and elimination. And what do we want to use? Which variable would we want to use? P or Q, and why?
P.
P. Why do we want to use P? What is the intuition?
Because we see P and negative, like not P.
Because we see P and not P. And that, my friends, is a powerful combination. Whenever you see a variable and the not of that variable, you can prove a lot of things. In fact, you can prove anything. And that's key. So let's delete that, right? And let's, so sorry, what's the next step? I don't want to rush ahead of myself here. So our ultimate goal was to reach that contradiction, right? So how do we do that? Let's look back at our rules, our sort of contradiction rule, which is negation introduction, right? Okay, we have P and Q implies P, or we could do that, right? And we could also do something like P and Q implies not P, because we have access to this not P, right? So how do
so can we use 3 and 4 and do implication introduction?
Awesome, cool.
And then we can do 2 and 3, and we can do implication introduction. So it's kind of like contradicting.
Okay, perfect. I want to caution against doing 2 and 3. What if we say we need
Your
to
intuition, I want to interrupt there. Your intuition is very good. That's Artie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your intuition is very good, but that's an illegal step. But he's going to show you how to do it legally. But what I want to say is your thinking was right.
Okay.
Your thinking was right.
Right. And I think, Artie, you mentioned that when you saw the P, you wanted the P because you saw a not P, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. But we have to follow the steps, the legal steps to get there.
Okay.
So again, you want to
Could we copy? Okay.
Go for it.
Could we reiterate, start again with P and Q and reiterate 2?
Okay, cool. What do you mean by start again with P and Q? What should we do with P and Q?
Another
So
assumption.
assume P and Q.
Assume P and Q. Okay, cool. And then you said reiterate 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Oh.
And then what?
And then we can do 6 and 7.
Okay.
And then we can do implication introduction.
Cool. So we've almost, finished this rule, rule 4 up, or tip 4. What is the last step we needed to do here? What was our ultimate goal? Do we remember?
5 and 8.
5 and 8. And what are we going to do with that?
Negation and introduction.
Negation introduction. And there it is. That's exactly what we were looking for, not P and Q. But we're not done yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we need to do now?
Now we have to assume negative. Oh, we already have negative P. So we have to select 2 and 9.
Right.
And then we have to do implication introduction.
Awesome. There it is. We've done a half of the proof, a big chunk of the proof, close to half of the proof. We've done this part of it. Now your guys' task is to do this part of it. And it's going to be very similar. In fact, you're not only going to do that part of it. This isn't your ultimate goal. Remember, this is your ultimate goal. So I want you guys to finish off this proof. I think we've got a good scaffolding of how we did. We've done a really complex thing here. We've got nested proofs. We've got or introduction. Well, we haven't finished or introduction yet, but we're headed there. Sorry, or elimination. We're headed in that direction. And so I think you guys can finish off this proof.
I know that this is kind of off task and not necessarily to do with your proof, but Omar, how did you actually write onto your like the web browser? How did you do the goal in blue, like add that text box?
Yeah, sure. So
That's really cool that you did that. I've never seen anybody do that.
Yeah. So when you share your screen on Zoom, you can, at the top, there's an annotate button. I don't think you can see it. I don't think it's going to show you.
Okay.
But there's going to be an annotate button. You click on that annotate button. It has a lot of things like text, draw, stamp, spotlight, you know, a bunch of different things. So I just click the text button and then it allows me to write text. And
Wow, that's really cool. I never noticed that whenever I shared, I never realized that was an option there. Thank you for
Omar,
sharing that.
some versions of it, you have to click view options and then annotate is on a drop-down list from there. It's not, doesn't say annotate, but it's on the drop-down list. Others, it may be just directly there. I'm not sure, but it doesn't, but that's how, but from there on out, as soon as you see annotate, that's exactly right.
Thanks for sharing that, Omar, because that's a really cool tool that I didn't know was an option.
yeah, of course. And I hope that was helpful. You know, I know you guys, the common complaint with this Fitch tool is that you can't write down your goal, right? So, you know, write it down on a piece of paper, or if you're showing your students, you know, write it down with Zoom, just kind of remind them what the ultimate objective was.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've got half of that proof done. I see Professor Genesareth has joined us. This might be a good time to have a conversation since he's here with us. Maybe we can leave that proof for the homework. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Was that 4.6? I can't remember, Omar. 4.8?
I actually made this one up.
Oh, that was one of De Morgan's rules.
Yeah, it was the opposite of De Morgan. I think one of the exercises makes you do one direction of De Morgan.
Yes.
Rules, and I wanted to have the or elimination as well as the nested subproofs to kind of go over those two.
Okay,
things.
so I can add that to our assignment.
Yep.
Okay, because now we have an opportunity to talk and chat. So I have, at this point, I'll just quickly summarize where I think we are. We've had quite a bit of practice doing proofs and using the proof editor. We've covered all of the rules of inference for the Fitch rules of inference for propositional logic, all 10 of them. We have some proofs that have asked us to use each one of those rules of inference. We've been in small groups working on those several times, and we're developing our skills. Still struggling with them, but then we're going to develop them. And that's where we are right now. So at that point, I think Mike's up to speed. Professor Genesareth is up to speed. The rest of you all that are in here, you might have some questions or some comments that you'd like to ask.
I would quickly say that we also did nested subproofs, which was cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let me make a couple comments just to start you off, and then you guys can queue up your questions. I'll be happy to address anything you want to ask. It's really informative for me to hear the issues that you have in your mind. So it helps us to helps me to help you, but also helps us to improve the teaching materials. So anything goes from I hate the way that proof editor works to something deep about logic. Okay, so a couple of points about logic. It's really I mean, there's a sense in which we almost thought we should just teach you propositional logic, at least in this 1 week setting, because there's enough material in there. There are so many issues there, and we're going to redo it all again for this relational logic. And so, but it's really important to get the propositional logic. All the ideas appear in propositional logic as well. They just get more complicated when you get to relational logic. We go to relational logic because it's more generally useful. When you're trying to describe a real world, you really want to talk about objects and relationships and so forth. And you can't do that in propositional logic. You can in relational logic. So most students are going to feel much more affinity to relational logic. And so we need to get there. But anyway, but all the logical concepts appear within propositional logic. So let me say a word or two about what you've learned and what I see as important. So you've basically got the idea that there's a language that you can express things formally, just like the language of algebra allows you to translate word problems into algebra problems. So the language of logic allows you to translate logic problems, word problems into formal logic problems. Now, once you got those, you can do a lot of things. You can answer questions about consistency, equivalence, logical entailment, all of these things, and there are techniques for doing that. One of those, the most, is truth tables. You can always answer any question, anytime in propositional logic by just building a truth table. You write the truth table, boy, and that will always give you the answer. And one of the things I found is that students really enjoy the fact that they know with confidence that that truth table is absolutely going to give them the answer. If they can master the concept of a truth table, then they are very happy with that because they feel really, really confident. But unfortunately, the problem with truth tables is they can get really big when you have a lot of constants, not when you have just P, Q, and R, but what if you had 10 or 20 or 30? Boy, those truth tables are way too big. And so we have to demonstrate logical entailment or equivalence in other ways. And we do that by manipulating the formulas, either just by transforming them with equivalence transformations or using proofs. And one of the key themes for this course is that you can solve logical problems in two ways, either using the truth table or using proofs. And if you can do it one way, you could in principle do it the other way. They absolutely correspond to each other. And that's a beautiful thing about the way logic is designed, is that you can do it either way. And the syntactic manipulation is sometimes shorter, but the truth table is sometimes more intuitive. You can go either way. So anyway, so the reason I'm mentioning that is that a lot of people take logic to be proofs. And one of my hobby horses is that logic is not just about proofs. It's about the concept of whether something follows from another. And that really is based on the notion of a truth table. The truth table is fundamentally where we get our intuitions behind whether a proof is right or a proof is wrong. It's just that the proofs happen to be a shortcut for determining that in many cases. And so it's important to do proofs, but many high schools, they teach geometry, proofs, side angle side, and so on and so forth. That's logic for that. But logic is bigger than that. It's not just about proofs. It's about determining logical entailment, equivalence, consistency, and you can do that in any way you like. Okay, I have one more comment to make, and I'll shut up. That is that the particular proof system we use, Fitch, which is called Fitch, is a very popular one in the logic community. It is an attempt to model some of the kinds of thinking that we do. For example, the notion, well, supposing I assume P is true. Well, if I can assume Q is true, then I know P implies Q. Suppose I assume P is true and I assume P is, and prove something. I suppose I assume that P is false and I prove something. Well, then P must be false. This is the intent of these rules in Fitch, is to try to model a little bit the way we think intuitively, but we have to create it in a form that's precise enough for the computer to manipulate. And so hence you have to type it in this arcane language, and you have to push the right buttons in order to make it work. And so there are many rules you could use. The 10 or so that we give you in Fitch is just a subset. You could use more. You don't need more, however. And so one of the beauties of Fitch is you need only 10, and you can prove everything that's provable. But commonly, you can throw in other rules of inference as well, so long as they're still correct and you know they're correct. And that makes proofs shorter. But for now, we're just trying to get everybody to understand that those 10 are sufficient and get comfortable with those 10, because there's always a proof where you need one of them. So there's something you want to prove where you need one of them. So we like to have those all, and concentrate primarily in that small subset. But yes, you can do more. And I don't know how to convey that to the students, because they tend to get frustrated when they can't make the darn thing come out right. And they prove the thing at the wrong level, and they keep, how do I get it out of a nested proof? One of the common questions they ask, right? And so, but if you just follow the rules, you can solve those problems. And it's a trade-off between trying to get them to understand and be precise in their thinking, and at the same time trying to make it easy for them so they feel empowered. Okay, and I will fix the editor so that you can write the goal, I guess. It's been it's perennial complaint. I probably ought to get around to fixing that already. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Logic, what it's about, proofs, truth tables, and Fitch is not the only proof system. You can do other things, but it's a good one because it is, once you master it, you get a sense of that it's modeling intuitive thought processes, though it doesn't look it when you're first trying to learn it. I'm done. Anybody have any questions?
I really like the Fitch program and the generator,
Yeah.
that what we use. I was curious, is there one where it's kind of the same, but like just with truth, the truth tables, where you can give the students and they can kind of fill out the truth tables online? Just because if I go virtual, it might be easier having like a thing where they could type it in. But I mean, I know it's just a chart that they could fill in.
Well, let's see. So I don't know whether you've seen Babbage and Boole yet. Have you guys?
Yes, we have.
Oh, okay. Somebody says yes, somebody says no. All right. Well, clearly there's some work to be done here.
Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I didn't show it. Did I, Omar?
Did I miss that?
I don't remember if we did it for this class.
You did. You
Mike,
did.
this is not the first class he's
but
teaching this year, so he might have taught it
but
this
it
last
was
class, but
not.
not you guys yet.
It was not as a tool for us to use at that point. It was.
I did show it, but I think maybe Sarah is saying something different than what Babbage
Possibly.
does.
So
Because
why don't
Babbage will
it-
just generate the truth table for you.
Yeah. I was
However, there is a button. There is a button called Truth Tables, and you can
Okay.
push it,
So
but it's
here I am.
not as great.
I might just not be seeing it, or I might have just overlooked it. That's totally
Okay, so on the website, learners, there's over here tools,
yeah.
and Babbage and Boole over here, truth tables and multi-column truth tables. So if I want to do, so for example, I want to see if P and Q logically entails Q, for example, it will do that. Now I can look at that middle column and look at wherever it's a 1, and I want to make sure that the right column, the conclusion column, is also a 1, and it is. So yes, P and Q entails Q.
Okay.
And
But is there a way that the kids can kind of type in the 1s and the 0s?
No, there's not one where they type in the 1s and 0s. You just have, this is the one where it will generate it for you to check your work.
Okay.
That's generally what people want, because when they type in, yes, when you try to teach them the truth table, they should fill in their own 1s and 0s. I agree with you about that. But once they get that down, the point is most of them don't make mistakes, and they want something that, no, I don't want to write out 16 lines, so can't you just generate it for me? That's kind of what we get. So yeah, I'm sorry, now I understand what you're after, and I don't have one of those. That's correct.
Okay. I mean, it's easy to make, and the kids can easily make it. I was just curious if like that.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that's what you wanted. But
Interactive.
Mike, you were right. There's something more needed here. Okay. Stop share. There also, the advanced proof editor that Omar uses allows you to intermix, by the way, truth tables and rules of inference. There's a thing in there called truth table. And so if you want to validate a step by using a truth table rather than using a rule of inference, you can push the little truth table button. We don't use that in the exercises because in the exercises, we're trying to get the students to learn the proof editor. And we don't want them going outside. But when you use the general purpose thing, which is in that page we were just against Cold Brand, I think that's what Omar was using. Then there is a button in there. One of the buttons in the rules of inference area is called truth table, and it'll use a truth table to generate the answer for you. So that's a shortcut for the easy cases where you could easily do this with a truth table.
Cool.
Other questions or comments?
Well, this has been an interesting class for me. I would just to say that like even today was like a real challenge going through the proofs, and I thought it was really exciting to see the different levels you can create, because you can really get like problems that are very easily accessible, and then you can go very far beyond that, which is really exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you go to 4, 11, 12, and 13, 14, those exercises are really hard. And a lot of people are challenged by them. The earlier ones are somewhat easier. But one of the things that students learn in doing proofs, however, is they're learning that there's not an algorithm for producing a proof. It's not here's the sequence of steps that you go through and out comes the proof. They actually have to try it's a search algorithm. They have to try something that may work. If not, they'll try something else. You might want to prove P implies Q by assuming P and proving Q, or you might want to negate P and Q and try to prove a contradiction. So they have to try different things. That's new for some students. They're not accustomed to not being told, what am I supposed to do next? But rather they have to try different things. Another thing that the students often benefit from is those set tips. The tips are wildly popular because they're looking at this thing, they're trying to treat it like a video game, just push the buttons. Well, okay, I'm just pushing the buttons. Maybe I get there, maybe I don't. But the tips give them a way of strategizing which buttons to push and when and for what reason. And I think that helps in an awful lot. It used to be the case that one of our TAs, Omar will remember this, I think, because he was in that course, would say, whenever you make an assumption, jot down in your head or on a piece of paper why you're making the assumption. Why did you make that assumption? You want to prove something. What is it you're trying to prove? Not put that down right away. Just make a little note of that, because otherwise you might just be making a wild assumption without really thinking why you're doing it. Yeah. So there's this strategy that you need to be pursuing while you're playing the video game. And that's something that has to be, that the proof editor doesn't really help with, and it has to be teachers have to explain that to the students. And the tips are kind of general strategies, again, search strategies for doing that. Okay, I'm talking a mile a minute and too many words. I want to hear more questions or comments.
So, Professor Janessa, as someone who took the class last year as well, I have to say that taking it the second time is really, really informational, because the first time there was so much focus on trying to understand what we were doing. And this time it's much easier, and it's much, I'm able to think more and let more flow. So I just want to say that allowing people to take the course as a follow-up is actually very beneficial. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. That's actually very, very helpful and useful to hear. It's a policy with us. You want to take it a second time, feel free to do so. We'll always allow people to take it a second time for exactly that reason. But there is another factor here which is at work. So this year, for the first time, we actually have a strategy about how to teach the course. We realized from teaching the course to teachers in the past that teachers, while you guys know logic, you may not know all the details of logic that we're trying to teach, or you may be rusty on some of these pieces. And so it may be desirable to put a little more focus on teaching the material and not just on how to teach the material. So I think what Mike Town has done has kind of very artfully mixed those two. So he's actually going over that material, as well as then subsequently providing opportunities for people to talk about, well, how in the world am I going to teach this to my kids? So, and we hadn't been making that separation in our previous versions. And so they kind of got jumbled together. We didn't spend as much effort teaching the material. So I think that's one thing that Mike is doing very well this year, is teaching the material as well as teaching how to teach it. And I think that will help to some extent. The other thing we need to do is there's a lot of material. And I know that last time this was taught, we tried to cram everything into the 5-day period. And now we've kind of slowed that down a little bit and sort of make sure that the basic concepts are being understood before we move on to more complicated ones. And I think that helps mastery as well. Anyway, thanks for that comment, very helpful.
So the previous courses was just pedagogy way of teaching the material, of teaching logic?
It wasn't separated as clearly. The emphasis on teaching, there wasn't as much emphasis on teaching the logic. It was there, it was being done, but it was kind of being done in not as a primary activity. Here is primarily, let's teach the material and let's talk about that. Let's, in fact, to some extent, give you the experience that the students have by going through the material and learning. Now, you should learn how to teach it by taking it as a student. That's kind of the pedagogical strategy we're adopting. And yes, we do talk about, to some extent, how do you teach it, but it's kind of relegated to a subsequent discussion. It's not all mixed in with the other stuff. I think that's helping. Also, I don't know who Chuck, you took it from. Was it Luciano, Bob Luciano? Yes. Yes, right. He also is not as rigorous about tracking the material as it's kind of presented in the course syllabus. And that might also have had some impact on that. Whereas here we're trying to stay on target a little more so that we understand whether it's working or not. If it's not working, we fix it. And if it is working, we keep it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I'd just like to say that oddly, I'm sorry that I'm taking up a lot of time, but oddly, I really like actually seeing this class online, because I've been getting so many like ideas on like how to be more interactive online, and like how to even like the virtual classroom that Mike did blew my mind, and he was able to like share that. And like, there's like, I feel like I got so much more oddly from having it being virtual compared to being in the classroom at like U of Penn. Even though I was really excited to have it in person, but this has been really like helpful.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. That's really also really useful in feedback. It'd be very interesting to turn back the clock a few months when we were talking about going virtual, and then we were sitting around the room scratching our heads and saying, this is going to be a disaster. We can't possibly do this online. And, and then we said, look, let's try, thought it through, let's try it. And then Mike Town came along and did this wonderful little LMS, learning management system, this little virtual classroom, which really, I thought, pulled it all together in a nice way. So you guys are getting the benefit of that. But it seems to me that in retrospect, now having watched 3 virtual classes, you guys are the 3rd I'm watching this year, it's working. It's it may not be perfectly, the kind of personal interactions are quite the same, but it's working. And actually, in some ways, it's superior because we prepare the material more. We get the virtual classroom. The virtual classroom. And so I actually think it's not bad. I'm pretty happy with it at this point in time. We'll see what we do going forward. I'd like to keep it virtual, as well as potentially when we finally get to meet face-to-face, have a face-to-face version.
For only being on our third day,
yeah,
all those comments that Sarah made are so important because there are so many aspects to this class this year because of COVID that we've learned, and it's only the third day.
Yes. It's
only the third day. So it's like, I can't believe how much we've learned in 3 days.
Yep. That's good to hear. I mean, that's music to my ears. That's what I wanted to hear. And thank you for that comment.
Well, I would agree with both of you, like Sarah and Lana. And it's just like my 10-year-old is super excited that she's not ready to leave the room because she's excited about all the things that we talk about.
Cool.
And so about the hat thing, we had been like yesterday back and forth, and we have been fighting about this. And it's like, no, she's like, no, it's only 5 hats. So the probability, and it blew my mind when she's talking about probability. And so yes, we have learned, and hopefully she will use this when she is going for dating. When she's dating someone, she will use that probability logic.
Good luck with that.
I have some stories about that, but I'll hold on to those for another time.
That's every mother's dream.
I wish.
Right.
Mike, just one question. Have you guys done puzzles, very many puzzles?
We did 2 puzzles. We were going to do a third today, but our time is up right now.
Okay, my apologies for that. Let me say quickly that the puzzles, the students love the puzzles. They are really enthusiastic about the puzzles. I remember teaching this class in one summer, and the kids would come in early and they'd stay late and they would be arguing with each other about the puzzles. They might like the logic stuff, the pure logic stuff, the exercises, the extras, but the puzzles are the things that really, really got them going. And so I would definitely try to include puzzles, even though the connection to the material is intentionally loose. Anyway, but I can talk more about puzzles separately, but I just wanted to find out. Okay.
And I do want to say that we are officially closed for the day. However, I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock your time, but our office hour right now is in session. So anybody who wants to stay, I'll stay for the next hour. And Omar and Mike, I'm sure, I don't know Mike's availability, but if you need to go because you have some personal commitment, please feel free to do so. I know David already left, and I think couple others did. But y'all, if you need to go, go. But if you want to stay, stay.
Also, as a quick note, we will be posting the proof that we went over, the saved version of that, as well as the premises and the conclusion that your ultimate objective was. I don't know, Mike, where do you think we're going to post that?
I will put it on the back wall.
And
also a reminder that the rules, the tips that Omar was using in the last proof that he put side by side, that's also on the back wall. And also the user's guide to implication introduction is also on the back wall. So all of those little cheat sheets are going to be sitting right there for you. All right. And your assignment's up. So, all right, sir. Anybody have a question for Professor Genesaris? Comment, thoughts, anything?
I think that we should, maybe in a couple of months do a follow-up or something like that. Maybe, like a couple hours or something like that. I'm not sure what your feeling on that would be.
What do you mean? So William, what kind of follow-up? What did you have in mind?
In case we start teaching the course, in case we have some additional questions or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
So absolutely, we're always here. You got our emails. It's also as a Facebook group, if you can tolerate Facebook. It's okay. Well, there is a Facebook group where for people who are teaching the course to share questions and ideas.
Okay.
So yeah, you can post there a question or post a solution or an idea, and that's what we're doing. We might also have a dedicated news group at some point, but we don't have that at the moment. I mean, our own news group, but that might be something we'll do because the Facebook group is only spottily used at this moment in time. That's what I want to know is what did you want about the follow-up? Absolutely. This is intended to be, you know, it's not a 1 week relationship. Anytime, once you've taken the course, if you start teaching it, I'm around, I'm happy to do this. This is my passion. It gets me up in the morning. So you've got a question about how to teach this material, let me know.
Is that the closed group on Facebook or like?
You just go there and ask, and it's and I approve. I mean, it asks me to approve, and then I always click the approve button if it's a teacher. If there's any reason, if it's a teacher, everybody gets in.
Okay, can someone put that chat in the chat that what is that Facebook group?
It's called IntroLogic, but
okay.
we can do that. It's just IntroLogic. If you search IntroLogic.
Okay.
It's on the teacher page also.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's on the teacher page. Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'll show it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Omar, I think we're good because we're doing the other half as homework.
Yeah.
So remember. Okay. All right. Have a great evening, you guys.
So long.
Goodbye, my friends. Thanks for your input today, Kenny. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye, Artie.
Bye.
Omar, I had a question on the one that we were finishing.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't know if you remember where we're trying to get to, but
Yeah,
we're almost where but it's supposed to be S and W or B.
Right. So
No idea how to add a B there.
right. So let's take a step back. Let's delete number 9. And let's take a step back.
Okay, but I don't even remember. Now I'm going to be fuzzy just because I haven't been thinking about it. But
Right, that's fine. So let's go back to what our original goal was. I think you have it up there on level 3 on the tab to the left.
yeah.
Right, so we have S and W or B. And you told me earlier that we didn't really need to really worry about that B, right? We could just add it in later, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how to add it in.
Right, so let's go to our rules. Let's
Yeah.
go to our rules on the second page there. Cool. So also, this is awesome, by the way. Eric coded this up recently, and it has all the rules on it.
Eric, would you share that with me so I can post it? Would you be willing to?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's your back wall, basically. It's some of your
Yeah.
back.
I love it if you would share that. I would love to share that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get to the chat while I'm presenting. So right after I present, I'll put it.
Okay, that's fine. No worries. Thanks.
Cool. So let's look at where or appears in our rules. Where do we see or statements?
Or introduction.
Or introduction, right? And what do we say there? We say for some, phi of n or phi of I, that should actually be phi of I, any phi of I, right? We can add a bunch of or statements and a bunch of sentences. In fact, we can add any or statement and any sentence, right?
Yeah.
So let's do that. What sentence do we want to add, or what, in this case, proposition?
We want to add B.
B. So let's do that.
So
what do we want to add it to?
I want to add it to 8.
Okay. And what's the rule again?
Or introduction.
Cool. And then what do we want to add?
B, but I thought when I did that, it didn't work. Oh, no, it did work. Okay, so no, I guess I didn't. I thought I tried to do that. And I thought it just didn't work. And then I think it was just.
There it is.
By the way, Eric, if you'll notice, the intent of this question, like many of the questions, is to add that subtle twist at the end. It's not that hard, but you want kids to understand, oh, I've done this implication introduction, but in my consequent, I really need a disjunction. Oh, I can add a disjunction with or introduction easily. And so that process, once you get it, you can use it a lot. But this was the intent of the problem.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. I and actually when I went to or introduction, you saw that I had the B in there even. But I guess maybe I was trying to do it outside of the assumption. Like,
Yes, that's probably what you were doing.
yeah. And okay.
The key, and probably the key conceptual thing that Omar did was say eliminate step 10 first, so you could get back into the sub proof.
Yeah, and I think I was put down step 10 and then wanted to figure out how
Right.
to. Okay.
I would really like it if you could share that with me. If
Yeah.
you can email it.
I'll just put it in the chat right here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. I was explaining to Omar before, I have, what, ADD, I think, or ADHD. I don't know. I don't know. It's undiagnosed, but
Self-diagnosed.
when I'm passive, I fall asleep. And I actually like remote learning because I've got like Rubik's Cubes here. And so like, I just have stuff. And so I was programming that webpage while you were talking this morning. Problem is I got a little too involved with it. So then I missed some of your stuff. So I have to keep it on the lighter side of distractions.
I'll let you judge that for yourself. No, but I appreciate the input. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've done a great class. And on another note, like between this year and last year, I think, Michael, I think you're more passionate about logic than Bob. Was it Bob last year?
Bob Lewis, yeah. Right.
Yeah, Bob is a great guy, and he's passionate about computer science, but he loved the puzzles.
Yeah.
The puzzles are cool.
No, but like he had a different passion. It wasn't for logic as this class is. It was for logical thinking and algorithmic thinking.
Right.
And so this class this year, you're definitely more passionate about the logic. So I feel like we're learning more about the logic, although it could also be I'm not sure.
It's also possible that you're seeing it for the second time, and so that makes it more clear to you. So yeah. But I appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
He would spend it's a compliment to both of you. You both have different strengths, which is nice. He would spend a half a day on puzzles.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you can easily do that.
Yeah, but if you're spending a half a day on puzzles, you're not going to get to as much logic. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah.
Oh, so you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I actually think doing less logic the first time is better because that's the harder stuff.
Yeah.
And the hat one, I remember that was my least favorite one. Is it? They were all wearing the same color hat. Is that the answer?
Oh, that one. Yeah. What's it called? Logicians, right? The logicians. Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and that one was the only one that I felt like was a little tricky because it was so easy to miss that it had to be a fair puzzle.
Right.
And Michael pointed that out just to emphasize that piece. But yeah, so last year when I tried it, like I didn't get it and I felt ripped off. Whereas the other ones, when you don't get them, it's just because you don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
That's a reasonable point. I mean, one of the issues about the puzzle is that you try to solve it and you kind of get to a dead end because you try this, that, and the other, and you can't get it. And so you go back and read it really carefully, and then you see that fair thing in there. So there was a sense in which it wasn't exactly intentional, but we noticed it was there and we decided not to fix it because there was a learning opportunity there. And so usually people would get stuck and then we say, did you notice it says fair? And then, it kind of gives them the boost.
Yeah. The best one is the winding up with hats.
Oh, that one, absolutely. The number one. I think most people love that. I love it. That's my
favorite. As they're figuring out, you can be like, I can tell you right now that you can save 99 people. What?
Yes.
And then they pull their hair out. They look like me.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. I mean, so everybody gets 50 and then some people get 97 and then they say, well, we can't do better than that. And then except that you can. So,
no, that's crazy.
Anyway.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
We'll see you mañana.
Okay. See you guys tomorrow.
Gentlemen.
Yes.
Are you going to join us this afternoon?
Yes. Was that today?
I didn't set this up. Somebody else asked for it, and so I just made sure that everybody was on the mail message. And
For some
And
reason, I thought
somehow
it was
I got at the
tomorrow.
middle of this, and I don't know. I wasn't intending. I'm not running the show. I just sent out a Zoom link. That's all.
So I thought it was actually tomorrow.
No, well, that's a good question. The last message I read was from Chris Kuzmo. It said Wednesday at 3.
Today?
Yeah.
Well,
Did
today's
you,
Wednesday.
is that the correct message, Omar?
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at, June 1st, or July 1st, sorry.
Right.
Okay, so today at 3.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not in the middle of this. I just created a Zoom link based on the last message I read, which said Wednesday at 3. So
All right.
we'll see if everybody makes it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's Nashanti and Cassidy who want to see how it went with Chris mostly, but I thought we could all, it might be beneficial if we all spend a half an hour talking to each other about the experience so far, because you guys have now done 2 virtual. Chris has done 1, 2-week one. And Nishanti and Cassidy are just preparing theirs. So it might be useful for them to hear how the experience has been. Anyway, all right. Well, I may see, hopefully I'll see you later, but I'll be there. I don't know who else will be there. We'll see.
Let me try to find that. I got to try to find that thread.
Okay. If you find that it's supposed to be Thursday, send me an email or something.
I will. I just want to try to figure it out for myself.
I'll fix
I don't know
it.
why I thought it was Thursday, but I'm glad you told me so I can
Unfortunately,
look.
somebody may have said Thursday, and that might be it. And it could be half the people think it's tomorrow. So that would be awkward.
Oh, okay. Let me check into it.
All right. Fine.
Thanks.
You want to do it right now, or do you want me to?
Yeah, let me check into it right now.
Oh, right. Hang on.
Did you get that thread, Omar? Do you know for sure?
Yeah, I got the thread. It says,
Can you forward the thread to me right now?
yeah, let me forward it to you. Cool, just forwarded it.
I've been responding to so many different threads. I lost track, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I'm.
This was one that was started by you, Mike.
It wasn't actually started by me. It was me responding to something.
Okay.
Somebody else had started.
Yeah, if you look lower, there's like a thread way below.
It does say 3:30 for Wednesday. Okay, and there's the Zoom link.
I think it's
Okay,
3.
3?
Yeah, there's an earlier one that says 3:30, and then Viva, I think, said she couldn't make it at 3:30, so we bumped it back to 3.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we'll get together, and who knows who will be there? Who's ever there, well, we'll be there.
It's 3 o'clock Pacific time.
Correct.
Muy bien. I'll see you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. I think it went
Thanks,
well
Omar.
today. Yeah, of course.
Good job today. Proof as always.
Appreciate that. I think I was excited. I think they're getting the hang of the nested proofs and
Yeah.
I mean, we're much further in terms of proofs than we were with the other class. So
Yeah, no, I agree. For sure we are. And tomorrow we'll introduce relational logic, and then we can spend the entire day on Friday working on relational proofs.
Right. That's awesome. That's
Actually, what I'd like to do is work on relational proofs and then introduce the creating your own universe and axiomatizing it.
Right.
Which I think is a really big, really big kind of conceptual leap.
Definitely. Do we go over the rules on Thursday or Friday?
Are you talking about last week?
Yeah, last week. What are your
rules?
plans?
Are you talking about rules of inference?
Rules of inference for
relational logic? We did that on Friday.
Or do we also plan to do that on Friday? Probably, right?
Let's see. I would like to get to it by tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think we could.
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes, right?
Right.
You okay, so let's see, you sent me the link already. Did you email that to me, or how did you get me that link? You texted it, didn't you?
What link do you mean?
To your proof.
Oh, I emailed it.
Yeah, you sure did. Okay, I'll put that up on the back wall.
Awesome.
And then I already put up Eric's back wall up there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. It's super cool that he coded that up.
The fact, I mean, first of all, those guys are all good at coding, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like I hardly code at all, and when I do, it's very laborious. So
yeah,
I'm not a coder.
Yeah, no, I found a mistake in there, and he like edited it and like fixed it like super quickly and like deployed it to his website super quickly, which to me is like crazy because whenever I deploy to a website, it takes like a while. It's not a while, but like a couple minutes at least to deploy. So I don't know what he was using, but that was pretty cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. See you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.